Alright, so architectural portfolios are unique compilations of our work. They represent us professionally, creatively, and a little bit on the personal side as well. It's often how we sell ourselves to a future employer, use it for a master's application, or even just to document our progress across the years. More often than not, we create one version and stick with it, right? The actual format, layout, and compositions sometimes don't get refined. That's okay. I mean, portfolios can be very demanding on top of a busy schedule as architecture students or architects. So in this video, I want to show you possibilities, show you that for every project or every portfolio, there are many ways to present it. There's no single solution, but what fits better with your style, goals, and type of projects and images you've got. I have here this project, this competition that I was part of, the team at Saboia+Ruiz, and I never really added this to a typical portfolio. So I challenged myself to create 3 different portfolio styles for the same project. And I'm treating this as if this was for a real portfolio, so I can't just use the boards because it will look pretty bad as a portfolio and it will have that sense that I didn't even put effort into this. Also, I can't use, or better, shouldn't use all of these drawings here because portfolios often have a page limit or a size limit. So I'm gonna give it around 4 spreads, more or less, to showcase and talk about this project. So it's up to me to decide which images and drawings are gonna be included and which aren't, okay? So let's begin. Just as with any process of portfolio creation, the first step is separating everything into its own files. Since I have here competition boards, this is a bit more demanding. So it will vary, but what I'm looking for here is each image and drawing separated and any text elements removed. At least the ones that are gonna be too small because it shows a lack of effort if there's a bunch of small text that isn't even readable, so it's best to remove them. Or even in this example here, I don't think it's needed for the whole visual narrative of the portfolio to have each of the room numbers and corresponding information on a legend. A plan by itself is enough to talk about the project in this case. Okay, this is the first step, always. It makes the whole portfolio creation process much easier and enjoyable. Version 1. For this one, I'm going to go with the first version that comes to my mind, and it's often a good idea to do a rough layout on a paper or even a creative software without too many limitations. You want your ideas to flow at this stage, and it's just a rough first try, so don't get too fixated at this point. Then, Adobe InDesign is the best tool to create portfolios. It's where you can set up a multi-page document and work with it in a super efficient way. So what I'm thinking here is more like setting up somewhat of a thicker margins and trying to use them as guides on every spread. This is one of the many ways that we can use to visually tie everything together and make it look cohesive. Now for the project opening, I'm gonna go for a very common layout, and common or typical isn't bad, okay? When done correctly, it's more than enough to let your project, the drawings and images speak for themselves. So an image on one of the sides and text and introduction on the other. So this information sort of balances out visually. Here next, I'm going to use a full spread to display some larger items like this plan or even the facade drawing. And variation is key to creating engaging compositions. And I'm always thinking of the order of the elements, of how I want to present the project throughout the pages. Now, this is really important. Do not be limited by the original aspect ratio of your images. With Photoshop's generative fill, we can very quickly and easily expand the canvas in any direction. So for this image here on the project opening, I want more of a vertical image, a vertical aspect ratio, while still showing enough of the entrance. So using the generative fill to expand the bottom is essential. Now listen, adding a project to a portfolio allows you to rethink the whole structure you already thought for the design, and honestly with a lot more creative margin. For example, half of this perspective section here I feel is enough to tell a bit of the story of the patio. Along with this image here, then the reader will have a good understanding of this space. Now, the original presentation structure can be changed. A good portfolio reorganizes the elements so that they fit the new format. Your goal is always to show the project, to tell the story of the project, and also show that your portfolio has been meticulously curated and refined by you. Remember that not everything needs to be included, and fewer objects on the page with enough white space allows the images and drawings to breathe and be properly read. For this first version, I wanted to go with a simple font, Nothing too different, something like maybe a Roboto works fine here. Any of the sans serif font really, like Helvetica, Montserrat, Roboto, Open Sans. A custom or unique font isn't really required in an architecture portfolio. Text is more of a secondary thing, but it needs to be properly done. So I'm giving enough attention to this here. I want a title, maybe a subtitle, and some body text. You need contrast and proper hierarchy set in place so the text is legible and looks good. And with this structure set in place, I can then sprinkle written information across all pages. This is where learning how to work with paragraph styles come in handy. Saves you a lot of time, especially if you want to swap fonts later down the line. And by the way, if you want to learn InDesign for Architects, the essentials of this program, plus what really makes a great portfolio, you might want to check out our course, InDesign for Architects, all about portfolios. I'm going to leave a link in the video description. It covers all you need to know without making you spend more time than you need to learn this really powerful tool. It's a really useful course, highly recommended if you're creating or updating your architecture portfolio. Okay, this is the first version, simple yet effective. I went with the typical portrait format using an A4 as the page size, the most common approach I could think of, but done correctly. 4 spreads is a good balance between being concise about what I show, but also enough to go over the project. Let's go into the other versions and then later you tell me in the comments which one is your favorite and if you would do something different. Version 2. For the second version, I want to explore more of the page and actually go beyond the margins using a full bleed type of solution. Here I also switched to a square aspect ratio, a square page that makes a more horizontal spread. And I want the images to really take a lot of space here and make an impact on the portfolio. I'm even going past the middle here to create this type of project opening. And remember that portfolio consistency is key. Here I'm only doing one project, but often a portfolio will have 3, 4, 5, or even more projects. So getting a style that is seen throughout all of the spreads helps you create more of a cohesive document. This full bleed, taking the entire page type of solution, allows me to place plans on top of each other, which is different than the last version where I only used the ground floor plan. For this spread here, I'm also using these very informative diagrams paired with the plans to really explain the contents of the project. Then a spread with a very horizontal image I think will look good here, especially with this type of image I have. You see, in the last version it was vertical and it also worked really good. It's all about having these images as individual files so that you can really customize and craft a solution that makes sense to you and your projects. This full page layout is also perfect for sections, or in this case here, a perspective section. It's so powerful to display like this. When I'm going through someone's portfolios and then I open a spread that has a section going from side to side, like a good section, I immediately want to dive in and see more about the portfolio. Now for text here, I'm choosing a font with a bit more personality. And this one is under the Mono fonts on Adobe Fonts. And for this specific portfolio, I'm making it all caps for titles and subtitles so that they are a little bit more impactful. And when it comes to paragraph justification, I'm often on the team that align to the left works better than just fully justified. This here is easier for the audience to read. I'll just avoid maybe hyphenation and try to make the text boxes a bit more narrow with spacing between the paragraphs. I mean, the whole idea of adding text to an architecture portfolio is to complement the main information, which is displayed using images and drawings. So text needs to be legible, easy to digest just in case the reader decides to scan over it. Because the reality is that most likely no one's gonna read over your text. And if they do, it's just gonna be a quick glimpse over it. So you gotta make it attractive and inviting. Okay, then as extra details, since I have these on hand, these hand sketches are a fantastic addition to add some personality to the pages. In this case, our team at Saboia+Ruiz had the hand sketches ready for the boards we submitted for the competition. So I just extracted them and saved them as PNGs. But this is something you can totally do after. When you notice the need for images or drawings for the portfolio, you can do that after to complement. Just like extending the canvas and removing smaller text from plans, doing this bit of work ensures that the portfolio becomes a well-built document, that it was thought out and it was crafted to look fantastic. It's what you want the reader, the employer, or your university to feel when they open your portfolio. Alright, this is the version 2. I've gone a little bit further here and added a 5th spread. I mean, it's not that rigid after all, but if I had a page limit or a size limit, eventually I could take this last one out and the narrative of the project would still be valid. I like this result a lot, and it's not your typical minimal style portfolio, but it does feel very impactful when you open this. Now on to version 3. And here I'm looking for something different from the last two. I want more of a minimal approach this time, and I'll do only 3 spreads. I even did a whole new color palette for the images, which is just taking out the cyan and blues out of the image. This is just to show you that you can tweak your renderings or collages to match the overall theme of a portfolio if that's important to you. So I'm trying a different layout with a small description of each image here. And I'm just gonna do text on this first spread this time, just on the project opening. And to change things up here, I'm gonna fully justify the text box. Just never use this one here. Justified, all lines just looks horrible. If you choose to justify it, do it to the left. And then the font I'm choosing is a serif font, which can also work well with architecture portfolios. Sometimes you can pair a serif font as body text with a sans serif font for the title, but here I'm going with the same one for both. And since the plan is long, I'm trying to rotate it this time, which is not something I would recommend too much. You don't want to be messing up with the plan orientation, but if you do it consistently and do it in a way that the entrance still faces the person looking. I mean, from the left here is still acceptable, I'd say. Now, drawings that contain numberings or letterings to show more info, like this section with the facade drawing here, I would suggest adding the text again here in InDesign. So you're in control of the size and font and everything looks cohesive. Now for this version 3, I'm using the margins a lot. I have here a 30mm margin all around. And even though the top and bottom isn't always lined up, which is not a problem, having the sides in this situation already helps me get a consistent look with the layout. And to finalize this version, something a little bit more creative and maybe different that I'm doing is changing the page of the background color, which is done using a parent page, but you gotta be very careful as not to make this too striking. You don't wanna draw more attention than the images and drawings. So usually something like an off-white can work, or sometimes doing an inverted look, if done correctly, can also look good. I mean, it's hard to pull off, so be careful. The typical plain white is a safer choice. A colored background will make your portfolio look better just because it's different, okay? But if you end up going for this type of solution, a tip I can give you here is to swap the images and drawings blend mode from normal to multiply. This will make them blend smoothly with the background, especially removing the white background of blends and drawings. And this is version 3. Shorter, a bit more minimal, slightly more creative maybe, but super effective as well. There's so many ways that I could have put together a portfolio for this project. This video could have been maybe about 100 styles. But out of these 3, which one is your favorite and what would you do differently? Remember that if you're looking to learn InDesign for architects, we have a course specifically for that. First link in the video description. And as a last tip I can give you is that each portfolio is unique because it's based on the projects and the author creating it. Copying a solution will never be a smart move, but seeing other references can definitely help you get some ideas on how to craft your own portfolios. And in case you're looking for references and you want to see more videos on portfolios, make sure to check this video right here.